Good afternoon. Could you tell us your whole name and where you were born, please?
Ida Ruth Bat Forbes. I was born right here in Omaha, Nebraska on February 3rd, 1922.
Now tell us about your early years.
I had two brothers, one 13 months older, Bob, and one 4 years younger, Joe. They're both gone now. My mother, Ethel, and my father, Phil.
And where did you live?
The first I can remember is living on Lafayette, about 45th and Lafayette, and starting school at Walnut Hill School. I just went there a couple of years, and then we moved to 2035 Fowler Avenue with my grandparents, and I went to Saratoga School. I went there for several years. Then we moved out to Minnaloosa, where my father bought a home, and I went to Minnaloosa grade school, from which I graduated.
Do you remember the names of any of the friends you had when you were in those schools?
Yes, in Saratoga, I had a girlfriend, Eleanor Ryshaw, and Catherine Dwyer, and that's all I can remember from Saratoga. Minnaloosa, I had many friends, but I was the only Jewish girl in my class. There were a couple of other Jewish children in the school. Marion Wolpa went to school there. Joe Sussman went to school there. I think Bernie Windrop and Leonard Finkel went to school there. They were friends of my brother's. But we had a lot of fun and a lot of friends. It was a very nice neighborhood to grow up in, and we lived just north of Miller Park, so we went ice skating there every day after school in the winter.
Where did you go to high school?
Central High.
Now you must have had some Jewish friends at Central.
Yes, that's why I went there. All of my friends from Minnaloosa went to North, and my brother started school at North. But I chose to go to Central because I wanted to be with Jewish children. And my very best girlfriend in grade school, Tina Virginia, an Italian girl, started school at North, but she transferred to Central to be with me, which made it nice. I had a lot of Jewish friends at Central, which made me very happy, and I insisted on going to Sunday school at the Jewish Community Center. My father drove me down there every Sunday to go to Sunday school. I also took art lessons down there, and as I remember, embroidery lessons and swimming lessons. Spent a lot of time at the Jewish Center.
Do you remember the names of any of your Jewish friends from Central?
Well, Betty Abramson, who later became my sister-in-law, went to Central.
What activities did you participate in while you were in high school?
Baseball, volleyball. I majored in art. I thought I was going to go to art school, but I met Irving and decided I'd rather get married.
Were you in any Jewish youth groups?
I don't remember.
When you left Central High School, where did you go then? Did you go off to marriage, or did you go anyplace else?
No, I worked for a year or two. I worked at Neisner's Dime Store for a short while, and I worked somewhere else, but I don't remember where.
What business was your father in?
He started the American Upholstery Company with Leo Fox, and they supplied upholstered furniture for the Nebraska Furniture Mart, for Orchard Wilhelm, and for other places.
Where was the business located?
1516 Cass, Atlantic 6926. See, I can remember that. I used to go down there every day after school. Used to walk down there and ride home with my dad.
Do you remember anyone else Jewish that worked for your father?
Harry Weiner. There were several others, but I don't remember them.
So when did you and Irv meet?
We met at an AZA baseball game on 22nd and Burdette when I was about 15 or 16 years old, and I asked him if I could ride his bicycle, and he was very impressed because I could ride a boy's bike. he didn't know that that's all I rode was my brother's bike. My dad wouldn't buy me one because he thought I was too reckless. So I was used to riding a boy's bike. But that's where we met. Dorothy Perlman introduced us. She was then Dorothy Weinswag. And to this day she says, I did good, didn't I? She said that to me at our party. But she's still a friend.
You said she did it at your party. What kind of a party was that?
We just had a party for our 60th wedding anniversary and Irv's coming 80th birthday, which will be November 27th.
After you met Irv, you dated all through high school?
Oh, yes.
Did you ever date anyone else?
Yes. A couple of times. I was going with another boy when I met Irv. I dropped him immediately for Irv.
And he's been your steady ever since?
Hmm?
And he's been your steady ever since?
Still is. Love of my life.
Can you tell us what happened in the early years of your marriage? Do you have family?
Karen was born about a year and 9 months after we were married. I wanted a baby immediately, but it didn't work out quite that fast. And then I was glad it didn't, because when she was about 2.5, Irv was drafted, and no, he enlisted in the Navy. And he was gone for 2 years, during which time I conceived on his boot leave, and I had Leslie when he was overseas. She was 10.5 months old before he got to see her, and she was a beautiful child. So that was quite an experience. When he came home, we were living in the project on 21st off of, what was that street in front of your store?
Paul Street.
Paul. And we had a lovely 2-bedroom apartment upstairs and downstairs, very nicely furnished and very comfortable. But in the meantime, my mother and father had divorced, and my father remarried and moved out of Omaha. My mother had the house, the 5-bedroom house on a corner lot on 25th and Whitmore. Very nice house in a very nice neighborhood. Did you ever see it, Al? You were never there?
Oh yeah, I thought you meant recently.
Yeah. Anyway, we wanted to get out of the project. It was starting to get very, very unsavory. So we made a deal with my mother where we would pay her rent and we were going to move into the house, which we did. And both of our girls started school at Minnelusa. Would you believe that my 8th grade teacher was still teaching there? When she saw me there, she says, Ida, you still got the curliest hair I ever saw. My hair was grizzled when I was a youngster. You wouldn't believe it now. Now I take permanents. But anyway, Elsie Della was the teacher there that was wonderful, with my brother Joe, who was always a sick child from day one. My 8th grade teacher was Catherine Sackett. She was still there. I don't remember who else was there. But I know that it was a good time to go to school there. I had a lot of fun and a lot of friends. But I had to go elsewhere for Jewish people.
Now you had 2 children.
4. Lost one. Our first
Okay.
boy only lived 4 days.
Tell us about your son. You mentioned your daughters.
Our son is 48 years old. He was the baby. I was bound and determined to have a son. And Karen was 58 at the end of May. Leslie was 55 in April. And Bruce came along 7 and 10 years later. He's 48. Needless to say, he grew up with 3 mothers. I'd sit down to read to him or something, and the girls say, Mother, go do what you want to do. We'll read to him and we'll play with him. They babied him and spoiled him terribly. To this day he is spoiled. But we loved him dearly. And I would say we had a very good life. Happy home. The only thing was Irv was a baker, and he worked ungodly hours. Get up sometimes 1, 2 o'clock in the morning to go bake.
Where did he bake?
Forbes Bakery on 24th. There was many a night that I laid awake in terror while he drove down to work through 24th Street, after a Joe Louis fight especially.
Now that bakery moved eventually, didn't it?
Yes, it moved up to 24th and Farnham and to 38th and Farnham. But Irv was the only baker in the family. Maybe I shouldn't be telling this, he may want to. But he'd get up in the middle of the night and drive all the way from 7000 North down 24th Street to the bakery. It was 1500 block on 24th. But he was known, I guess, and the Negro people didn't bother him. As a matter of fact, he had a young black boy work for him, Jim Johnson, that would have laid down his life for Irv. I'll never forget Jim. He was wonderful to Irv. And
Well, now what did Irv bake at this bakery? What kind of items did he have for sale there?
rye bread, pumpernickel bread, health bread. You don't see that anymore. Kaiser rolls, dinner rolls, pastries. Anything you'd want was baked there, really. Anything, especially in the Jewish line, in the Jewish home.
Did you ever help in the bakery?
Not in baking. I worked in the front waiting on trade a lot. Not a lot, a little. I was busy with 3 children.
As the children grew up, did they start helping?
I don't remember the kids working in the bakery until Irv and I bought a little bakery our own, the Jolly Baker in Benson. And we moved there, and he was a baker there, and he took, I think, 1 or 2 of the bakers with him. I know one of them used to come up and bake for him on his off days and part-time. But then the girls worked in the bakery waiting on people. Bruce was too young. I didn't go to work there until Bruce started school. And fortunately, my mother and her husband moved a half a block away from the bakery, so the kids could go there after school. The girls by then were in high school, though. But it was a nice little bakery, and we liked Benson very much. Friendly community. We made some good friends, and we had a good trade. But then one winter, the roof and the ceiling went out from under us both at the same time, and the owner of the building lived in California, and he didn't want to do anything about it. So we were kind of in a mess. But anyway, Harold Cooperman came in one day and said to Bruce, "How would you like to open up a bakery for me at my new store up on 73rd and Blondo?" So we jumped at the chance. It was a godsend. And we moved the bakery up there. And then I worked waiting on trade, and my mother worked waiting on trade, and I don't remember whether the girls did or not. Bruce never worked in the bakery.
Do you remember how long you had a bakery? What year did you stop working in the bakery, and what year did Irv stop working?
Irv stopped working in the bakery when somebody came in and offered him a job as an insurance salesman. And we thought, good, this work is too hard, we don't want this anymore. So he went to work as an insurance salesman. Well, with 2 girls in high school, both dating at the same time, we needed more money than you could make as a beginning insurance salesman. So I went to work at Brandeis. I worked on the telephone board for 2 years, and then they came in and asked me if I would take the job managing the furniture office. And I said, yes, I'd like to try. Let me go home and talk to my family, because it would mean some changes there. So I went home and I told them I was offered this job, and I thought I'd like to try it. What do you think? Well, they all said, go ahead, try it. So I did, and I worked in the furniture office for 5 years, and then I said, I've had enough of this solving everybody else's problem. I want to go on the floor and sell furniture and make more money. So I did. and I sold furniture there for 15 years.
And then you retired?
Nope. Brandeis sold out to Yonkers, so I worked for Yonkers. And then Irv had a heart problem and had to have a pacemaker. And several years after he had his first pacemaker, they put him on an experimental drug. And I wanted to be at home to monitor how he tolerated this drug. So I said, I want a leave of absence. In the meantime, we had opened up a bakery, a delicatessen in Bellevue, and I took a 3-month leave of absence to go out there and manage that for him, which I enjoyed immensely. It was a lot of fun. Met a lot of nice people, had a lot of fun. Then I went back to Brandeis to work. I'm getting ahead of myself. That was before Yonkers took over.
Now, when you went to work for Yonkers, where was the store located?
They took over Brandeis.
Downtown?
Yes. I always worked downtown. No, I shouldn't say that. I worked at the Crossroads for a while because when they opened up the Crossroads store, we lived just north of there, about 10 blocks. And I said, I want to go out and work at the Crossroads store. It's silly for me to take a bus and a streetcar and come all the way downtown when I just live walking distance, which I never walked, to the store at Crossroads. So I pulled a few strings and I got to go out to Crossroads, which was fine, but I never walked to work. That's the funny thing. I drove my car.
But it wasn't as far.
It wasn't as far. I didn't have to leave as early. I didn't have to get up as early. I never had a job that I had to get up early to work. I'm not an early riser. And the fact that I didn't have to be at work until 9 o'clock was a godsend. I probably would have been fired within 6 months for not showing up on time.
So you worked there in the furniture department,
Mhm.
and then what happened?
And then, how did it happen? I went across the street to Paramount Furniture and worked there in the office for a couple of years. I don't know why, but I did. I went across the street, and I remember being interviewed by Mr. Roth, who owned the store, and I worked on their desk, handling all the problems that I did at Brandeis for 5 years. I was very insulted once because the people in the furniture warehouse had to take a lie detector test because of some shortages. And I said, I'm the one that should be taking a test. I'm the one that wrote all the pickups and deliveries and exchanges and merchandise repairs and everything. I'm the one that could do some shortages. They didn't make me take a lie detector test, and I told them I was very insulted. They said, no, my work was all on paper. They could see everything I did anyway, so all they had to do was read the papers, and that was a check on me anyway. But it was a fun job. It was very challenging. It was different every time I picked up the phone. It was a different call about a different thing. I'll never forget, I had to send out a pickup to a family somewhere in Iowa who had delivery of 2 sofas. We never could figure out how that happened. If a sales clerk accidentally wrote the same order twice, when it went down to be filled at the warehouse, shouldn't they have realized that they had sent this out already just shortly before, a day or two before? And it was never caught. We never did figure out how that happened. But anyway, I sent a pickup out and got that second sofa back. Must have been embarrassing for the people, but
Were there any Jewish people working at Yonkers or at Paramount when you were there?
Gert Levy was was a top sales lady at Brandeis until she retired. And not that I recall at Yonkers. And at Paramount, I think there was one, but I can't remember his name.
Did you stay in that house, in that area for a long time, or did you move after that period of time?
And Minnelusa?
No, when you were living 10 blocks away from Yonkers at the crossroads.
We lived there for quite a while.
And then did you move to an apartment, or did you stay in your home?
I don't remember. We probably moved to an apartment because I couldn't take care of the house. I don't remember.
By that time, your children were probably off to college or wherever
They were all in school. They were all grown. The girls were married.
How many grandchildren do you have?
We have 7 grandchildren and 5 great-grandchildren and a 6th on the way that we'll have in January here in Omaha. All the rest are in California. We'll have one in Omaha in January. Leslie's going to be a grandmother.
So Karen is the oldest.
Karen's the oldest. She has 3 children and 5 grandchildren that are our great-grandchildren. She didn't have any great-grandchildren yet.
And Leslie?
Leslie has 1 married child and 1 not married. Her daughter is 21 and she's not ready to get married. Tim is married. That's going to be the father of our 6th great-grandchild. He's walking on air.
And so are you, I assume.
Not as high as Leslie and Tim.
Were they all here for your anniversary?
Yes, all except 1 granddaughter, Karen's daughter, and her 2 sons couldn't come. Linda just started a new job in Calabasas, California, managing quite a large organization, and she couldn't get away for Labor Day weekend. So she couldn't come, and her 2 boys didn't come. But they were here about a year and a half ago.
It sounds like you're very proud of your family.
I certainly am. I have what to be proud of. Karen's 2 boys, one is a CPA and one is a chiropractor in California. He just opened up a 2nd and 3rd office. And they're doing very well, and I'm very proud of them. Karen, by the way, divorced her husband after 30-some years of marriage. He pulled 1 trick too many. She should have divorced him a long time before that, but she loved him, so what could you say? We never said anything.
What were some of the proudest moments of your 60 years with Irv?
My proudest moments when each of my children were born, when my girls graduated high school, when they got married, when they started having their families, when their families started having their families.
You just had this wonderful 60th anniversary party. What were the highlights of that wonderful event?
The people that showed up that we didn't expect. We didn't send any invitations in Omaha. We just put an ad in the press, a notice in the press, and my Italian girlfriend from Minnelusa grade school, who we're still friendly with, came with her husband. They saw it in the paper. I was very pleased when I saw that. I didn't see you there.
I was there.
I'm sorry.
We talked for a minute.
My mind isn't what it used to be, Alan.
You had quite a few people there.
Yes,
Do you
there were.
have any idea how many people were at that?
About 250, they tell me. And then that night we had a dinner for the 60 family members and out-of-towners in the social hall there. The home did a beautiful job on it. We had a lovely dinner, and our daughter set up gorgeous tables. It was absolutely breathtaking.
And they did a video for you, didn't they?
Yes. They showed the video of our life. Leslie and Bruce did that. They showed a video of our life and our children and our grandchildren continuously on 2 monitors during the whole reception. It was wonderful. Not many people will live through that.
Is there anything that you would like to say to your children and your grandchildren?
Please don't inherit any of my illnesses. please. I've lost the hearing in this ear. I had to have an acoustic neuroma removed, and they had to cut my hearing nerve and my balance nerve to get it out. So I have no hearing in my left ear. And having this stroke, I pray to God that they don't get any of these illnesses. I've had a quadruple bypass. Thank God everything turned out all right with that, I think. Well, I'm still here, it must have. But I've had a lot of serious illnesses and operations, and I just pray that none of our children inherit any of that.
But still you have a smile on your face.
I hope. You know, at work they used to say to me, Ida, you're not smiling. And I said, is there a law that I have to? And they say, yes, you always have a smile on your face. So I thought that was good. But I can't help it if I'm not always smiling.
But you do enjoy having your family come to visit?
Oh, yes. Irv comes every single day and has dinner with me every night. He's the most wonderful man in the world. That can go on the record.
Is there anything else that you would like to have on the record?
He knows I love him dearly. I tell him that every day. And I think it's reciprocated, or he wouldn't put up with me.
Can you tell me a little bit about your father and mother? Did they come to this country or were they born here?
My mother was born here. My father was born... No, I guess she wasn't. She came as a little girl. My father was born in Russia. He came over to escape being drafted.
And how about your mother? Where was she born?
She was born in Russia.
Did they meet in this country?
In this country.
Can you tell me who your daughters married?
Our oldest daughter married Bob Meyer, which was a mistake. And our youngest daughter is married to Bill Cully, thank God, Dr. Herman Cully's youngest son. But Bill is a very sick boy. They're going through hell.
Want to tell us about your brothers?
Bobby was regular Army. You know that, Ellen. And he was a strict Army man. When he said, Jeff, sit, his son sat. When he said, Ellen, go to bed, Ellen went to bed. He was very strict with his children, which I did not approve of, but they both turned out very well. They're lovely children. If only they'd speak. You know that, don't you?
Yes.
But you know that Ellen took Jamie for a whole day with Boone?
Yes.
So maybe that'll mend the ways a little. I keep wanting to tell them, don't let me die, please, knowing that you two are on bad terms. Please don't do this to me. But I just can't get it out.
You have some wonderful family pictures in your room, Ida.
I sure have, and I'll get more from the party as soon as they get them developed.
Would it be all right if we included some of those in this video?
Certainly.
Well, we really appreciate you giving us your time today. Is there anything else you'd
My
like
pleasure.
to say?
I've had a wonderful life up until the last 5 years, and this has been hell, me being here and my husband being in an apartment at Embassy. We had sold the house and moved to the apartment about 6 months before I had my stroke. I got all new furniture, and I loved the apartment, and so does he. 2 bedrooms and 2 baths. He's there and I'm here. That's not fair.
Well, you know what? The most important thing is that I see you together so often, and it's obvious that you love each other very much.
I hope so.
Thank you, Ida.
You're welcome.